G'day, in this video we are going to preview the Scourge of Ghyran rules for the Sons of Behemat. Now Scourge of Ghyran is offering each faction a series of seasonal rules that will be match play legal for the upcoming General's Handbook Season 25 to 26. Now looking into the big stomp, the Sons have gained 2 new battle formations, 3 new heroic traits, as well as a new alternative war scroll for the Kraken Eater Mega Gargant. This unit will have a separate pitch battle profile that can be substituted for the original war scroll. You can't include both the Scourge of Ghyran variant as well as the original war scroll in the same army list. You can include the war scroll in an army of renown, just not in a regiment renown. So let's go in and see what we've stuffed into our bags. Sons of Behemat have gained 2 new battle formations in addition to the existing 4 options. Manskittle Mob once per turn in your shooting phase lets you pick up to 2 friendly Mega Gargant units within 3 inches of any terrain features and pick any friendly Gargants within 3 inches of any terrain features to be the target. Now, when you activate this ability, you will double the attack characteristic of each target's ranged weapons for the rest of the turn. If the target has no ranged weapons, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of the target instead and roll a d3. On a 2+, you will inflict an amount of mortal damage to that enemy unit equal to the roll. This ability can only be used in your shooting phase, so it's not going to come into effect during cover fire. If you play your Gargants like I do, the double damage on the Man Crusher ranged weapons won't be as useful as I'm often using the run and charge abilities, though it can be useful in obviously those situations where you're not going for the run and charge. Maybe they're hanging out on an objective. Maybe they're trying to go out and score some battle tactics and they're not running around. What this does do is it creates the Man Crusher with a solid chance of actually hitting a target with that ranged weapon. And it's a decent attack when it hits. We just know that there's a lot of failure points and we often won't be willing to spend the all-out attack on this type of attack. That may change a little bit. As for your Mega Gargant options, the Kraken Eater is going to give you the most value when it comes to volume, as it will turn those hurled debris attacks into 6 attacks. Alternatively, if you're looking for impact, the Gatebreaker has the most deadly shooting attack, with the higher rend and the higher damage, but it has less attacks. Your Mega Gargants like King Broad, your Beast Smasher, and your War Stomper don't have a shooting profile, so they will be able to inflict D3 mortal damage instead of, doubling the shooting attacks that they don't have. Any configuration of Sons of Behemat can benefit in one aspect of this ability, with the exception of Kragnos. The large base sizes shouldn't make it too difficult to get within 3 inches of a terrain, and likely being next to terrain and contesting objectives at the same time. Most of your army can benefit at least once, and it's ideal for taking out some extra damage onto the target before you go in and charge and fight. The other battle formation is Big Toes, and once per battle in the deployment phase, you get to pick a Man Crusher Gargant, and for the rest of the battle, add 1 to the hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Gargant units while they are wholly within 12 inches of the target and not wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Mega Gargant unit. So this ability will only affect the combat attacks of the Man Crushers, so it's not going to benefit the throwing rocks. Unfortunately, you cannot pick a Man Crusher mob, which is going to put your whole battle formation ability clinging on a single Man Crusher. The +1 to hit wholly within 12-inch aura is going to constitute both a solid zone of effect, but also a fantastic boost to the overall output for the Man Crushers, both the singular version, but also the mob. Because as you know, this army is going to live and die on their ability to hit on a 4-up, and any way that you can boost this is going to significantly increase the reliability and the effect of Man Crushers getting into combat. Interestingly, there is no penalty for staying wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Mega Gargant to benefit from the Keep Up ability, and then charging out of the Mega Gargant's range to receive the Big Toes boost. I'm not comfortable running my whole army around a single Man Crusher to access my battle formation. Sure, I can keep running my Mega Gargants and just keep them out of range of Big Toes, but this one is not for me. I do like my Man Crushers, and they often partner my Mega Gargants as a little tag team. Maybe this would be a little better for me if the Man Crusher could become a hero, and then it becomes monstrously tough, or it gets some type of health boost in addition to this fun. But maybe you see some benefits. Maybe it's better at a smaller level 1,000 point battle. This one's not for me. Sons gain 3 new heroic traits to go along with the existing 3. Grabby is a passive ability that adds 1 to the hit rolls for this unit's combat attacks that target an enemy unit contesting an objective that you don't control. Now, this is an easy trait to activate, and having a dominant control score is going to be a blessing and a curse, because it is going to be a short-term benefit unless you keep moving on to new objectives or somehow your opponent is able to reclaim them off you. The changes to all-out attack will make things a little bit more risky for Gargants, so getting a +1 to hit while you're on the move, stepping on objectives, might actually work for you, and then you could use all-out defense for that particular hero, or for a different one, obviously. It combines nicely with the Amberbone Totem artifact. You could combine it with Kragnos for that 3d6 charge, and either way, what you're trying to create here with Grabby is going to be a highly aggressive, objective sweeping unit that's going around smashing, getting +1 to hit, doesn't want to stay on an objective for long. It just keeps moving. And, your other Gargants or your Man Crushers could be retaining those objectives, but this is really about being on the move. And if nothing else, it lets you get that free all-out attack and spread it out somewhere else. Actually use the command on a different model and always get this +1 to hit on the bearer. Terrifying Hulk is a once per turn reaction for when an opponent declares a charge ability for a visible non-monster enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit. Now, if this unit isn't in combat, on a 3-up, you get to change one of the dice of the charge roll to a 1. This ability will trigger in either charge phases, and it could also actually debuff your counter charge, as well as unique charge abilities like you see on the Beast of Nurgle. With it being a reaction, you will get to see what the result was on the dice before choosing what you want to change, if you want to change. You also can go in and elect not to change any of the dice and wait to use the reaction somewhere else, assuming that the bearer of the trait isn't already locked into combat. Changing one of the dice rolls to a 1 can be crippling for an opponent's charge and likely will be the difference of a success and a failed charge. This will hurt even more if your opponent has focused their spells and prayers on important buffs on a particular unit, only to be denied their charge. It could possibly throw away valuable buffs. It could be throwing away their victory points. It could be impacting their battle tactic completions. A lot of good stuff here. And if I'm reading this sequence correctly, your opponent will get a chance to re-roll those dice with forward to victory after you've changed the dice roll. But at least you've forced them to spend a command point. So there is a little counter here for your opponent. It is entirely possible that you will only get 1 chance at it in the game if your army is engaged and the bearer is in combat. So you might want to take the first shot that becomes available. Mega Grump is how I feel on a Monday morning on my commute to work, but moving my personal life to the side for a second, the heroic trait version of Mega Grump is a passive ability that gives a unit a 5-up ward when they've received 25 or more damage points to it. But I am going to start off by saying that it doesn't work the way that you want it to work, because it doesn't kick in mid-attack sequence once you've hit 25 points or damage. Because when you look at the core rules, the damage sequence is a 2 steps. First, you resolve your ward saves, then you allocate your damage points. For example, the War Stomper has this trait and it's already suffered 20 damage points already. Then it's in a combat sequence and it's being attacked and failed an extra 10 saves, and 10 more damage points are about to be allocated to the War Stomper. While you are resolving this sequence for those 10 wounds, the first step would be to resolve any ward saves, which currently at 20 health allocated, it doesn't trigger this particular ability. You would then go on into step 2, which we then to allocate those 10 damage points, which would then bring the Gargant from 20 health already to 30 health suffered. So even though it has triggered the 25 through that kind of threshold sequence, because of the ward step and that 1-2 little thing, in this particular example, I would only get the 5 last remaining health. Yes, I could rally and bring some health back, but it's not going to trigger, I guess, essentially mid once I hit the 25. So on a 5-up ward with 10 health remaining on, if you can kind of line that sequence up perfectly, your Mega Gargant is likely going to kind of retain an extra 5 health, like mathematically. So I think in that particular example, I'm just better off taking Monstrously Tough, right? It's just better off straight up without the restrictions. Finally, we have an update to the least taken War Scroll in Sons of Behemat, and that is the Kraken Eater. If you're the 1% of players who are actually using the Kraken Eater, this War Scroll is optional, and you don't have to take the Scourge of Ghyran version. If you're like me and you haven't touched this model in years, this might be an incentive to dust it off. The Scourge of Ghyran Kraken Eater has gained a point of damage on its Shipwrecker War Club, going from 4 damage to 5 damage. It's lost the Stuff-A-Mimi Net ability that would automatically slay up to 3 models if you could roll double their health characteristic, and this was a valuable ability to deal damage to high armored targets like your Chaos Warriors and your Stormcast Infantry. So overall, when you look at the profile, it's slightly less quality overall when you obviously factor in that. But if you went into like a 4 wound or a 5 wound hero, then obviously the maths plays out a little differently. So I guess it's a minor loss or maybe a minor victory, I guess, depending on what you're fighting into. It's also lost the ability of Get Off Me Land, which was that repositioning objectives on the battlefield, but it wasn't a huge loss because it was useful back in the ye old days of like 2nd edition, but throughout the years, it started to lose its value more and more, and probably part of the reason why the Kraken Eater hasn't seen the tabletop in top list for a while. It's not all doom and gloom here for the Kraken Eater. I want you to close your eyes at this moment and visualize your opponent when you tell them that you have a Mega Gargant can ambush into the battlefield. That's right. Through lurking beneath the waves, you do not have to set up this model on the battlefield during deployment. And then in your movement phase using Emerge from the Deep, you can then set up this unit anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units and wholly within 9 inches of the battlefield edge. This has huge potential to deploy partially onto an objective that no one is currently claiming or there's no enemies nearby, allowing you to steal the objective, providing some value straight away when it hits the battlefield. Its 24-inch shooting attack is quite long range, and landing outside of 9 is going to mean that you could potentially have the ability to shoot out some of those critical units, especially things like support heroes that might be usually protected otherwise by guarded hero. It could even capitalize on the Man-Skittle mob when it's doing so. Even if the Kraken Eater failed its charge, it would still be contributing in a very meaningful way, dealing damage, potentially claiming objectives, or the psychological threat and what it means for a Gargant appearing anywhere on the board. Like any deep striking army, you'll really want to land on an objective where there's potentially multiple enemy units that are just outside of 9 inches. So even if your opponent was to go on and then do a redeploy, there's still a other unit that's within 9 inches or just outside of 9 inches to go in and charge. Now, I must admit that I think this is a good update. I think this is a positive update for the Kraken Eater because King Broad, the War Stomper, the Gatebreaker, the Beast Smasher, all of your Mega Gargants have dealt damage quite well, and they all play a very unique role, whether it's high rend, whether it's high volume, whether it's anti-monster, whether it's the prayers. All of these Gargants have done something quite unique for my army, and the Kraken Eater has never really kind of fitted into that. Now I feel with the ambushing abilities, and it still contributes quite nicely. It's not solely reliant on just ambushing alone. This is definitely making me reconsider the value of the Kraken Eater, and it's definitely something that I want to play around with. So I think it's overall, this is definitely a win here for Mr. Kraken Eater. Overall, I think this is an interesting update for the Sons of Behemat, but speaking from personal experience, I think some of these rules are not for me, and that's okay. I'm just not someone who's going to be putting a Man Crusher as my air quote leader, not real leader. It's not a regiment leader. I'm not putting my whole battle formation against a Man Crusher. Anyway, moving to the side, the two new battle formations are going to offer a different style. Your Man Skittle mob is going to be great. I think there's some real potential here if you want to run a double Kraken Eater, maybe even double Gatebreaker to have more of those really great high volume attacks. The big toes also works for those Man Crusher lovers. I'm not one of them, but if you are a Man Crusher lover or you run a lot of 1,000 point battles, this could work really well for you. Sons already have 3 great heroic traits in your Monstrously Tough, your Furious Temper, your Rabble Rouser, and you've just gained another 3. I think for me, the Terrifying Hulk is the only one that I'm tempted by, but I obviously don't like the failure point of 3 up. I'd much rather the automatic +5 health, the +1 to charge, or once per battle +2. Maybe you're seeing something here that I'm not, but Terrifying Hulk definitely does have some play. I'll see how the meta kind of unfolds. But I think the big winner here, to no surprise, will be that alternative Kraken Eater War Scroll. It's been sitting around points values of your War Stomper for a long time, and if I've got a War Stomper versus a Kraken Eater, I'm taking the War Stomper every day of the week. There is no solid reason why I would take a Kraken Eater. I think the Scourge of Ghyran now, especially with the ability to ambush and come in from reserve, is going to offer something unique to Sons and is worth reconsidering in one of your Mega Gargant slots. So that's all I've got for you right now, and I hope if you want a theory craft and list build, you consider coming over to the AOS Coach Discord server, where we have plenty of space to talk about all of the factions, including Sons. The link is down below in the episode description. So get out your big toe and let's get stomping. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AOS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double 1 on a spellcast.